The UK government is to approve the use of longer lorries on Britain's roads despite warnings that this will increase the number of fatal road accidents. The decision comes after an 11-year trial that involved more than 300 companies and almost 3,000 vehicles. The government claims that the longer lorries, which have trailers up to 61 feet in length, will reduce congestion, lower emissions and enhance the safety of British roads. However, not everyone is convinced by these arguments. Road safety campaigners have expressed their dismay at the move, saying that the longer lorries pose a greater hazard to pedestrians and cyclists, especially on narrow roads and at junctions. They also argue that the trial was flawed and did not take into account the impact of longer lorries on road infrastructure, such as bridges and roundabouts. Moreover, they point out that the trial showed that the longer lorries were involved in around 61% fewer personal injury collisions than conventional lorries. But this was only because they were restricted to certain routes and times. Some of the businesses that will benefit from the use of longer lorries include Greggs, Morrisons, Stobart, Royal Mail and Argos. They say that the longer lorries will allow them to carry more goods on fewer journeys, saving them time and money. For example, Greggs said that it has reduced its annual kilometer travel by 540,000 kilometers and saved 410 tons of carbon per year from using longer lorries. The Department for Transport said that vehicles which use longer lorries will be subject to the same 44-ton weight limit as those using standard trailers. The legislation to allow longer lorries on Britain's roads will be laid in Parliament today and will come into effect from May 31st. The government said it expects the move to generate an estimated £1.4 billion in economic benefits over 10 years. However, critics say that this is a short-sighted decision that will put lives at risk and damage the environment. The UK government has decided to allow longer lorries on the country's roads, despite safety warnings from campaigners and experts. The new legislation, which will come into effect on May 31, 2023, will permit lorries up to 18.55 m long, which is 2.05 m longer than standard size, to operate on British roads. The government claims that this move will reduce the number of journeys, lower emissions, and boost the economy by £1.4 billion. However, critics argue that longer lorries pose a greater risk to pedestrians and cyclists, especially in urban and rural areas where the roads are narrower and more crowded. They point out that longer lorries have a larger tail swing, meaning their rear end covers a greater area when turning, and extended blind spots. They also say that most of the testing during the 11-year trial of longer lorries took place on motorways and A roads, and not in real-life scenarios where people are more likely to encounter them. According to official figures, heavy goods vehicles, HGVs, account for 3.4% of traffic, but are involved in 15.5% of cyclists and 11% of pedestrian deaths. Some businesses, such as bakery chain Greggs, have welcomed the new laws, saying that they have seen significant efficiency benefits from using longer lorries since 2013. They say that they have reduced their annual km traveled by 540,000 and saved 410 tons of carbon per year from longer lorries. They also say that they have provided extra training for their drivers and monitored accidents, finding that they are as safe as their standard fleet. The Department for Transport, DfT, says that the new lorries will be able to move the same volume of goods as current trailers and 8% fewer journeys than current trailers. It also says that the trial showed that longer lorries were involved in around 61% fewer personal injury collisions than conventional lorries. The DfT says that operators will be legally required to ensure appropriate route plans and risk assessments are made to take the unique specifications of longer lorries into account. It also says that vehicles using longer lorries will be subject to the same 44-ton weight limit as those using standard trailers. The new laws have sparked a debate over whether longer lorries are a good or bad idea for Britain's roads. While some see them as a way to improve efficiency and reduce environmental impact, others see them as a threat to safety and infrastructure. The question remains, are longer lorries worth the risk? The new laws are part of efforts to increase efficiency and reduce journeys. The UK government has decided to allow longer lorries on Britain's roads from May 31, 2023, despite safety warnings from experts and campaigners. The new legislation will permit lorries up to 18.55 meters long, which is 2.05 meters longer than the standard size, to carry more goods on fewer journeys. The Department for Transport, DfT, claims that this will generate an expected £1.4 billion in economic benefits and save 70,000 tons of carbon dioxide from being released into the atmosphere. The DfT says that more than 300 companies in the UK took part in a long lorry trial and almost 3,000 vehicles are already on the road. Some of the businesses that will be rolling out the use of longer semi-trailers, as long lorries are officially known, include Greggs, Morrisons, Stobart, Royal Mail and Argos. The DfT also says that vehicles which use longer semi-trailers will be subject to the same 44-ton weight limit as those using standard trailers and that they are expected to cause less wear on the roads due to the type of steering axle used. However, not everyone is convinced by the benefits of longer lorries. Some experts and campaigners have warned that they could present a hazard on smart motorways, where there is no hard shoulder for emergency use. They have also argued that longer lorries will increase the number of fatal road accidents, especially involving cyclists and pedestrians, as they have larger blind spots and longer stopping distances. They have urged the government to invest more in rail freight instead of road freight, as rail is safer, cleaner and more efficient than road transport. The new laws are also part of a wider package of measures aimed at making HGVs more fuel efficient and environmentally friendly. The government has recently changed legislation to allow the use of aerodynamic features and elongated cabs on lorries, which help reduce fuel consumption and emissions. A 2013 study estimated that these aerodynamic improvements to HGVs could result in fuel savings of 7% to 15%. The design of elongated cabs also improves driver vision and comfort, boosting safety and welfare for drivers and other road users. Campaigners say they will increase fatal accidents. The decision to allow longer lorries on Britain's roads has sparked a backlash from campaigners who say they will increase the risk of fatal accidents, especially for pedestrians and cyclists. They argue that the super lorries, which are 2.05 meters longer than the standard size, will have larger blind spots and longer stopping distances, making them more dangerous on urban roads and roundabouts. According to the Campaign for Better Transport, longer lorries are involved in more than 50% more fatal crashes with pedestrians and cyclists per mile than standard lorries. They also claim that longer lorries will damage road infrastructure, such as bridges and curbs, and undermine efforts to shift freight from road to rail.